All right. Hey, Ricky, can you make it just a skosh lighter? Just a little bit. See if maybe, do I look less yellow in that? I don't know.
This side?
You look a little yellow.
Do I look a little yellow?
Yeah.
I don't know why I look so yellow. I'm sorry, I apologize, John. This. All right.
That's good.
Is that good? Thank you.
It's a very warm tone light.
Well, I noticed that that Angela, when she was talking, I was like, she looks ill, but she's not ill. So I was trying to get the light to be right and help it out, but it does not look like it. It helped out well. Okay, well, we are in we're in a part of Judges. Actually, I'm going to say this a lot through Judges, where you kind of just are looking at people and you're going, oh, this is just so distressing. What was the group? I want to say the Pointer Sisters or the Pointer Sisters, somebody that had the TLC, I don't know. They had the little R&B clip where they say, "What have you done for me lately?" What that? Do you remember who was that group, right? But you know that tagline, right? What have you done for me lately? Okay, that is the Israelites. There's a sense of, and as much as I want to throw rocks at the Israelites for them being that way, it's also me. God works powerfully in my life. And then 15 minutes later, I'm like, oh God, it's just, when are you going to do something about this one thing? I have very little memory. And really what we're seeing when we look at the after effects of Gideon and what happens to Israel during that time, it's really another one of those places where you're like, man, those people. And it's really kind of one of those things, it's distressing to see it. And there's a sense, sometimes I don't know if we pick up on the sense because, I don't know. The scale of time is one of those things where sometimes we can just think it's the same group of people that are making the same dumb decisions, but it's not really, because it's generational. It goes from generation to generation to generation. But also, it is also the same people. Like, both of those things are true. Like, when I first read the Judges, it's kind of like you see God works powerfully with Joshua, and it's like, oh, and then after Joshua, the people just lost their mind. And you're like, well, sure, maybe these guys didn't see God as powerfully. But that's not the truth. The truth is, literally, while Joshua dies, there are people with Joshua who are alive with Joshua when God was powerful and working powerfully with him. And then Joshua dies, and a minute later, they're like, maybe Baal. And even this with Gideon, we get to the point where Gideon dies. And you're like, well, but Gideon was alive for 40 years? Yeah, absolutely. But not everybody that knew Gideon died at the same moment. So there are people that are very much the same people who were like, Yahweh's great. And 15 minutes later, they're like, and Baal too, right? That's the sense of it. And that right there is kind of that's right on top of it. Some of the same people. But then the other thing is the fact that it is a glimpse of generationals. So these people that are going to be doing dumb things here are not the exact same people that were doing dumb things 100 years before, but there's the same pattern of dumbness. It's kind of like history rhyming, which is one of those things for us as believers. It's one of the reasons why we can so easily fit into it, because we're looking at traits that humanity shares. Is it possible for God to work powerfully in your life 1 week, and then the next week you be in a place where you get to choose whether or not you're going to follow God or Baal, and you might be at a place where you're like, well, Baal kind of looks nice right now. And the reality is the temptation is there, even when God works powerfully in us. So we're going to start up right here in one of these. Oh, these are good songs, but this is not where we're at. We'll get to the slide. It'll be beautiful. The first Noel. All right. right, so we're gonna back it up. First of all, we're gonna learn about Abimelech, and I know I talked about Abimelech last week because even in the naming, you're like, don't do it. Things are happening bad. So we've seen the pattern of God working graciously in our lives, working powerfully in our lives, and then people regressing, right, or rejecting God in the good times for the gods of the land. And that's what we see here. So that's the story that we read last week, the story how the people of Israel defeated Midian, which never recovered throughout the rest of Gideon's lifetime, about 40 years. There was peace in the land. How wonderful. Then Gideon, son of Joash, returned home. He had 70 sons born to him. How does he do that? There you go. Right. Next phrase. The next one. For he had many wives. Ought we have many wives? No, we're not supposed to do that. He also had a concubine in Shechem. Well, that's not even the wife, right? That's not a good sign. She gave birth to a son. Now, Shechem is the Ephraimites. Shechem is the head of the Ephraimites. So he's from Manasseh. She's from Ephraim in Shechem. And he named, what did he name his son? Abimelech. He named his son High King. But didn't you say that we're not going to be kings? When Gideon was offered the kingship or the kingship to his sons, he said no. And then by this point in his life, he has a kid and he names him High King. That's a bit of a problem, isn't it? All right. Abimelech, he's going to be a baddie as we continue on. This is don't do it. This is set up right. Gideon died when he was very old, and he was buried in the grave of his father Joash in Ophrah, in the land of the clan of Abiezer, right? And as soon as Gideon died, right? Is that what it says? As soon as he died, the Israelites prostituted themselves by worshiping the image of Baal before Baal-Berath, their god. Okay. You're going to see this picture a lot because I like this picture. That picture is the standing stone. When they were at Shechem and they made a covenant with Yahweh, an agreement to follow Yahweh, probably it was that stone. But it also was that stone that they also used to covenant with Baal a generation later. The temple behind it, the holes behind it right there, would it surprise you to know that temple area there is called the Temple of Baal-Berith? Man, what is amazing about that one site is so much of Bible history runs through there. And you could go there, you could touch it. You know, and it's an obvious site. It's not a hidden thing. You want to go to Israel? And go to Shechem? I sure do. They fought the Lord their God who had rescued them from their enemies surrounding them. They forgot the Lord their God who rescued them from their enemies surrounding them, nor did they show any loyalty to Jeroboam, or Gideon, right? That is Gideon. Despite all the good that he had done for Israel. Now, Abimelech, he desires to be a king. Well, probably that desire came from the fact that his dad called him High King. So there's a point where you're like, ugh. Remember how they made the ephod right at the end where they glorified Gideon's battling, and it said that became a snare for Gideon's descendants? There's a sense that they started to believe their own press, that they were powerful in themselves, that they were great men. And even it looks like intention on Gideon in the naming here. And we see it, the fruit of that half step, right, that little bit of pride blossoms out into this war that happens. One day, Gideon's son, Abimelech, went to Shechem to visit his uncles, his mother's brothers. He said to them, and to the rest of his mother's family, ask the leading citizens of Shechem whether they want to be ruled by the 70 of Gideon's sons or by one man, and remember that I'm your own flesh and blood. Okay. Shechem's history. Boy, we're going to talk a lot about Shechem's history. Talk a little bit about it in a little while. But right here, let's just put this down. Shechem is the capital of Ephraim. So do you remember when Gideon was rescuing everybody and he sent for the Ephraimites to close off the pass, and they get all upset because they're like, why didn't you call us earlier? Because So the Ephraimites were supposed to be protecting everybody, but they let them come in the gate. They had not done their job. So part of the reason that they don't like the 70 sons of Gideon is because of their own shame. They didn't have the strength to defend Israel. So now they're relying on Gideon's sons to carry the burden that they were supposed to carry. So that shame turns around to, well, why don't we just get rid of them? That's really what's happening. So the Ephraimites, who are now kind of putting themselves underneath Manasseh, they don't like that idea because they're the children of Joseph and they should be in charge of everybody. So what happens here is they rebel. Hey Toby, we've got a dirty potentiometer. Mute everything but the mic I'm on. Otherwise it sounds like we have a wind. So I'm on the green and white one. Green and white, green and white. There we go. So Abimelech's uncles gave his message to the citizens of Shechem on his behalf. And after listening to this proposal, the people of Shechem decided to in favor of Abimelech because he was their relative, right? So they gave him 70 silver coins from the temple of Bel-Berith, right? That same temple. That same hole in the ground that right was behind that standing stone. That's where the 70 gold pieces came from, which he used to hire some reckless troublemakers who agreed to follow him. Some mercenaries, bandits. He went to his father's home in Ophrah, and there on one stone they killed all 70 of his half-brothers, the sons of Gideon. But the youngest brother, Jotham, escaped and hid. It's a red flag, not a good sign. There's also some replicate. We'll come back to, hold on, because there's another place where I want to use this. Remember the history of Shechem? Okay, just put a flag in that, and we'll come back to this. Then all the leading citizens of Shechem and Beth Millo called a meeting under the oak beside the pillar of Shechem and made Abimelech their king. So right there in that same area where that standing stone was, that's where this happened, where they crowned him. Okay, so Bible scholars, sometimes you may hear this question. It'll say, who was the first king of Israel? And people who read the Bible a lot will say, Saul. A lot of people say Saul. Now, if you're in a really, like a trivial, really big Trivial Pursuit one, there's actually an earlier answer. Abimelech. Abimelech is the first king of Israel. He happens a few hundred years before Saul. And he rules for 3 years. I know I'm spoiling it. Not well. The Ephraimites raise him up as their king. So under the yoke, right, they do that right there. When Jotham heard about this, he climbed on top of a hill of Mount Jazir. Okay, so remember this? So Jotham's going to stand on the Mount of Blessings and shout a curse at the Shechemites in the same direction of the curses. So we have that same imagery repeating. And then that's why I really love that picture, because this picture is if you were standing on the mount that Jotham is, and you'd be looking down, that right there is where that temple is. Actually, that's actually where the temple is and a fortress. So, Isn't it kind of cool? And what did he shout from the hilltop down there? As he climbed on top of the hill of Gerizim, the hill of blessing, he shouted down on them the curse, right? He said, Shechem, listen to me if you want God to listen to you. Once upon a time, trees decided to choose a king. First, they said to the olive tree, be our king, but the olive refused, right? Olive tree refused, saying, should I quit producing olive oil that blesses both God and people just to wave back and forth over you? In other words, just to have this authority that you want to give me, should I stop doing this blessing of humanity? Because olive oil was used to anoint head, and it was used in healing. It was used to soften skin and make people feel better, to soothe. Right? Should I stop doing that just to be your king? No, I shouldn't. I should stay doing the good purpose that God gave me. And then they go on. Then they go to the fig tree. But the fig tree also refused, saying, should I stop producing sweet fruit just to wave back and forth at, because again, that fig tree, the idea of being able to give joy and comfort to hungry people. Right, absolutely. That's a better job than being your king. Then they said to the grapevine, you be our king. And the grapevine also refused, saying, should I quit producing wine, which cheers both, cheers both God and people, just to wave back and forth? Why does it cheer God? Because it's in consecrations, it's in ceremonies, and also wine does gladden the heart. There's a sense of it's a blessing to man. And he's like, why should I stop this blessing just because you want me to be your king? So obviously, then the trees finally turned to the thorn bush and said, come be our king. Now, does the thorn bush have any other purpose, really? Not really. And is it a fruitful plant? Is it a good plant? Is it a wonderful one? It's really just kind of it's a curse. If you truly want to make me your king, come and take shelter in my shade. How much shade can you get in the thorn bush? If not, let fire come out from me and devour the cedars of Lebanon. There's a sense where even as the thorn bush is accepting the positioning, the thorn bush knows that it's hated by the trees. It's not fooled. But it's also pointing out the fact that its position will also be the destruction of the trees. Jotham continued, now make sure that you have acted honorably in good... Oh, do you love Shakespeare? And you know how Shakespeare in Julius Caesar, how many of you read Julius Caesar? And the Friends, Romans, countrymen, lend me your ear, that is a great monologue. And in that, Shakespeare has Brutus, and Brutus says this thing that... not Brutus, has Mark Antony, right? Mark Antony gives the Friends, Romans, countrymen? Yes. And he's talking about Brutus, who just murdered Julius Caesar. But the whole time he's like, but Brutus is an honorable man. And he did this, but Brutus is and he keeps saying that Brutus is an honorable man. And at the end of the crowd's listening, going, I don't think Brutus is an honorable man. And it's this great teaching moment where he's saying one thing, but pointing something out. Well, I'll tell you, as great as Will Shakespeare was, he wasn't the first. Jotham does the same thing right here. So he's like, congratulations, you just Abimelech's king. Wonderful. It's good for you. So that's the sense of this. So this blessing it's a tooth. So he's on the hill of blessings. He's giving a blessing, but the blessing has a corresponding curse to it. So that's the interesting thing. So he goes, if you have acted honorably and in good faith by making Abimelech your king, and that you have done right by Gideon and all his descendants. Have they done that? Have you treated him with the honor that he deserves, all he accomplished, for he had fought for you, this is Gideon, and risked his life when he rescued you from the Midianites. But today you've revolted against my father and his descendants, killing all 70 sons on one stone. And you have chosen a slave woman's son, Abimelech, to be your king because he's an Ephraimite, because he's a relative. If you had acted honorably and in good faith toward Gideon and his descendants today, then you may find joy in Abimelech, and may he find joy in you. But if you have not acted in good faith, Then may fire come out from Abimelech and devour the citizens of Shechem and Beth Milo, and may the fire come out from the citizens of Shechem and Beth Milo and devour Abimelech. In other words, he's like, may you all get what you deserve. Beth Milo. Don't know where that is. It is possible that what Beth Milo is, because Milo is a hill or a fortress. So it could actually be the fortress in Shechem, like that neighborhood. We could be talking about the same kind of general area, or it could be like a second town that's tied to it. But either one, I think the simple that it's a temple and a fortress, or temple and a tower, that's going to play a role coming forward. So their hope or their worship has to do with that, and that's an issue. Then Jotham escaped and lived in Beer because he was afraid of his brother. Beer is a place. This is not saying that he went and became an alcoholic because he was just depressed. So they had a place called Beer, and he went there. After Abimelech had ruled for Israel for 3 years, there's that sentence. He's the first king. God sent a spirit to stir up trouble between Abimelech and the leading citizens of Shechem, and they revolted. God was punishing Abimelech for murdering Gideon's 70 sons and the citizens of Shechem for supporting him in the treachery of murdering his brothers. Wow. So what's God doing? Well, God is making stupid painful, right? Isn't that kind of what he's doing? He's kind of having these two people that are in rebellion judge each other. Historically, okay, I'm going to talk 20th century just because 20th century history, because it's something close to many of us and we know it, right? So modernism was this belief that as humanity got smarter and got better, then we would create better systems and we'd create our own utopia out of our own will. That we'd create better systems of government, better systems of societies, better systems of everything, right? And the two principal ideas of modernism that developed out of modernism that dominated the 20th century, that came from that modernistic idea, was two brands of socialism. One of the brands of socialism we now call fascism, and one of them we now call communism. But they're both the same. And at the heart of both of them was not a political system, it was a rebellion against God. So both fascism and socialism come from the idea that there is no God, that man is the highest thing, and we can determine whatever we want. So in a sense, the rebellion about both fascism and communism, and both of their rebellions and ultimately the murders that they both committed in the millions, the 20th century, a lot of its history is dominated by those two forces then being turned toward each other and being destroyed a lot like this. That's the sense. That's the reality. Sometimes God does that. You know, the biggest armies that God has, and we see this. This is, how many times have we seen? We just read it like right before we went into this, right? God's people are busy praying. The Philistines show up. So what does God do? God gets them turned against each other and battling each other. That's the sense of it. That's how many times have we seen that in the Judges, where you know, Gideon standing up on top of the hill, people are battling down in the bottom amongst themselves. So that kind of pattern we do see. We see that here. So this is where the curses happen. The citizens of Shechem set an ambush on top. So here, I didn't read it yet. How do we get there? 3, 4, 2, 5. Okay. So he ruled for 3 years. but God stirred up the spirit between Abimelech and the leading citizens of Shechem, and they revolted. God punished Abimelech for murdering Gideon's sons, his 70 sons, and the citizens of Shechem for supporting him in the treachery of murdering his brothers. The citizens of Shechem set an ambush for Abimelech on the hilltops and robbed everyone who passed that way. But someone warned Abimelech about the plot. Now here's the thing. Those hilltops, again, are places where people were worshiping. So there's a sense that Abimelech is still guilty of worshiping other gods on these hilltops. So I'm just going to hit that because we just keep hitting that same button throughout the book of Judges. One day, Gael, son of Ebed, moved to Shechem with his brothers and gained the confidence of the leading citizens of Shechem. During the annual harvest festival at Shechem, held in the temple of the local god. Do you know who the local god is? There's a clue in the text. We'll get there in a second. For everybody began to curse Abimelech. Who is Abimelech? Gael shouted. He's not a true son of Shechem. So why should we be his servants? He's merely the son of Gideon. And this Zerbel is merely his deputy. Serve the true sons of Hamor. That's the local god. Does that name sound familiar? The founder of Shechem. Why should we serve Abimelech? Okay, now, if a lot of this has sounded familiar, because you're like, man, there's a lot of stuff that sounds familiar. Let me tell you what we're doing a call back to. Shechem, 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 Shechem. I say that all the time, and we know it because this is a village that we've heard about before. The place where it's the biggest part of the story is Genesis 38. In Genesis 38, Jacob gives Hamor some money, buy some land outside Shechem. Hamor's son thinks Dinah's hot and rapes the daughter of Jacob. It is Shechem that is the town where Levi and Reuben and Simeon say, great, if you convert to following our God and get circumcised, then we can all marry and we can all unite here in Shechem. So then they get circumcised, and then Levi and Simeon and Reuben murder the men in the town of Shechem. So now you see how the murdering of Gideon's descendants and the Israelite leadership is almost an echo. It's almost the response. It's the thing that, when Jacob said, how could you do this? You're going to make our name stink in this area because of your actions. What he saw 400 years earlier, 400-ish years earlier, is coming to fruition. This story is it's such a strong echo of it.
And the original audience have seen this right from the start.
Seen it right from the start.
Gideon had a son with his side chick in Shechem.
Yeah.
And they would have seen all of that.
All of this. And if they hadn't saw it before, the call out to Hamor, the god of the village, who was a contemporary of Jacob who established the village, you'd go, oh, well, Hamor, yeah, we absolutely know. This is all tied together. If Abimelech were in charge, we're in charge here, I would get rid of Abimelech. I would say to him, get some soldiers to come out and fight, right? He's talking all big and bad. Then Zerbel, the leader of the city, heard what Gael was saying, and he was furious. And he sent a message to Abimelech and Umrah, and telling him, Gael, son of Ebed, and his brothers have come into the city of Shechem, and they're talking smack, right? Is that what it says? They're now, and now they're inclining the city to rebel against you, talking smack. Come by night with an army and hide out in the fields in the morning as soon as day is light. As soon as daylight, attack the city. When Gael and those who are with you come out against you, You'll do with them as you wish. So Abimelech and his men went by night. He split into 4 groups, stationing themselves around Shechem. Gael was standing in city gates when Abimelech and his army were coming out. And when Gael saw him, he said to Zerubbabel, to Zerubbabel, he's like, hey, look, there are people coming down on the hilltops. And Zerubbabel's like, no, it's just shadows. Shadows on the hill. And they look like men, right? But then Gael says, no, people are coming down from the hills, and another group is coming down the road right past the Diviner's Oak. Now that bothers me that it's called the Diviner's Oak, because you get a sense like just a generation before, this is where Deborah was beating. So as opposed to a place where the prophet is, it's now this Diviner's, it's this other God's sacred spot. And you just kind of, it reminds us just how quickly it decays. And then Zerubbabel turned toward him and asked, hey, now where's the big mouth of yours? Wasn't it you that said, who's Abimelech? Why should we be his servants? The man you are mocking is right outside the city. Go out and fight him. So Gael led the leading citizens of Shechem into battle against Abimelech. But Abimelech chased him, and many of the Shechem men were wounded and fell along the road as they were retreating into the city gate. Abimelech returned to Irma, and Zerubbabel then drove Gael and his brothers out of Shechem. The next day, the people of Shechem went out into the fields. When Abimelech heard about this, he divided his men into 3 groups, and he set fire to the fields. When Abimelech saw that the people were coming out of the city, he jumped up, his men jumped up, and they went from their hiding places, and they attacked them. Abimelech and his group stormed the city gate to keep the men of Shechem from getting back in. Abimelech's other 2 groups cut them down in the fields. The battle went on for all day, and Abimelech finally captured the city. He killed the people, leveled the city, and scattered salt all over the ground. So they were judged, right? Not completely. There's still some other holdouts. When the leading citizens who lived in the tower of Shechem heard about what had happened, they ran and hid in the temple of Baal Peret, that temple space. Someone reported to Abimelech the citizens had gathered in the temple, so he led his forces to Mount Zalmun, and he took with an axe and he chopped some branches from the tree, and then he put them on his shoulders. He's quick, do what I've done to his men, and his men do the same thing. So each of them cut down branches, following Abimelech's example. They piled the branches against the walls of the temple and set fire to them, so that all the people who had lived in the tower of Shechem died, 1,000 men and women. So that temple mount, that's why it's just ruins, or one of the times it was just ruins, was right there, burning down of it. Then Abimelech attacked the town of Thesbis and captured it, but there was a strong tower inside the town, and all the population, women and the entire population, fled into it. They barricaded themselves and climbed up on top of the roof. Abimelech followed them to attack the tower, but as he was prepared to set fire to the entrance, a woman on the roof dropped a millstone, and it landed on Abimelech's head and crushed his skull. Yikes. He quickly said to his young armor bearer, draw your sword. Don't let it be said that a woman killed Abimelech. There's that idea. So much better that your armor bearer stabbed you, I guess. So the young man ran him through and with the sword, and he died. And then Abimelech's men saw that he was dead. They disbanded and returned to their homes. In this way, God punished Abimelech for the evil that he had done against the father by murdering his 70 brothers. God also punished the men of Shechem and all the evil, so the curse of Jotham, son of Gideon, was fulfilled. Now, why include this story in the midst of Judges? Is Abimelech a judge?
No, but it fits the pattern.
Kind of, right? There's a weird kind ofness.
But it's not the same part in the pattern, though.
Yeah.
It's like the judges would help bring people back. This is part of the
although he kind of is. Okay, so here's the flip. Here's the flip in the story. The bad guys in the story are Jewish. Up until then, up until this point, the bad guys have been the Midianites or the Moabites or the Amalekites. This is Shechem. The Ephraimites are doing Baal's work. And they're attacking Gideon's family. So in a sense, at this point, God raises up Abimelech to wipe out.
Like he raises up Cyrus.
Yes,
To restore Israel.
he does. He raised up this evil person to destroy this evil thought. It's weird, but it's supposed to make us go, wait a second, we're not just good because we're Jewish. What? Is that?
And they were both descendants of Gideon.
And they're both, yes.
Like,
Oh, absolutely.
that's a big word.
Yeah, no, it is one of those things that starts making us realize that it's not biology. This isn't a racial purity thing, that if only that there weren't these other people here. If it was, our nation's good, your nation's bad. It has nothing to do with this. It has to do with loyalty to Yahweh. And whereas we've seen examples of people that are in the right position to make the right choices, make the wrong choices, we also see people that are in the absolute wrong position to make the right choices, right? So we've seen the wife of the Midianite who chooses Yahweh. We see a Canaanite in Jericho who chooses Yahweh. So these are voices that we're hearing throughout the Judges as we're rolling forward. And now we see this son of a great Jewish judge who is a rebel. But then God using that to judge the rebellion. So he is both the rebel king, right? The king that's appointed, and he also destroys the rebel kingdom. It's really kind of weird.
That reminds me of that verse in Isaiah where he says, I'm the one who created the blacks, the fire, the forge, the weapons that are against you.
Yes.
And at the same time, so I'm in charge of the whole thing.
It is. God is absolutely in charge of it. It's serving a purpose. It's to purify, because they're worshiping. Remember, before all of this started, they decided they were in that town, in Shechem, decided to worship Baal Berith, right? In that town. So this judges that town.
Well, and the fact that it said there in, was it 8:33, as soon as Gideon died.
As soon.
They already had that in their hearts before he died. Like,
Yeah.
they were already there.
Yeah, and it's
Like,
so...
as soon as he was gone, it was like, all right, here we go. Like,
Yeah, and the most positive read on those people is not a very positive read, but it's very similar to how I live my life sometimes. God works powerfully Monday, and Tuesday, where are you, God? Or what have you done for me lately? Right? That same.
Janet Jackson.
Is it Janet? Thank you. Wonderful. It's Janet Jackson. All right, but that's the sense of it, that we have that feel. Where is God in this? I don't know. Where's your obedience? Are you pointing toward God? It is. It's a little discouraging too, because it shows that as much as we want to think that our faith moves to our kids, it has to be them. Jotham, his name, I didn't get much out of his name, and he kind of just shows up and disappears. We don't really see him after he pronounces the prophetic curse, which I guess is encouraging, but then he disappears. His name means something like the perfect follower of Yahweh, maybe. I don't know. It's hard to really kind of, because there's such a wide range of meaning with the components. I think what he really is important for us to recognize is he is a picture of the remnant.
well, and especially in the Old Testament, it's kind of a good thing if you just make a short appearance and then disappear. You get what I'm saying? Like, those are the ones that usually make good choices, make a positive impact. It's the ones that stick around a while that tend to...
You want to get the one line in the Bible,
go in a...
vice the whole 2.5 chapters, because things aren't going to go well. You can't hold it for 2.5 chapters.
Yeah.
No, I think he's a picture of the remnant. So when Ezekiel is talking hundreds of years in the future, in a place after Israel's been wiped out, in a place where there's been so much destruction. Him being able to look back and see Elijah being told, hey, there's 400 prophets that didn't kneel down to Baal, that God always keeps a remnant. So this story is one of those pictures too. So even though there's rebellion and murder, right, that amongst all this, God is still maintaining Gideon. Like there's still a remnant of Gideon that continues on. And that promise of there always. So when Ezekiel's talking about how there's always a remnant or a shoot, and he's building on that, and it builds toward his vision toward Christ. But there's this sense of that, which I think he's able to look back at this story for that. So I love this story. I wish there was better choices made by people, just like I wish there were better choices made by us. But I am glad that God does judge evil, and that He does take care of it and moves people back on track when He has to. So there you go. Yes.
When is it later when the people of Israel, I don't know which tribe or whatever, go to Samuel and ask for a king?
Yes, it is later. It is several generations later. But we see right at the beginning of this, 3 years earlier, Gideon knows the theology clearly. 3 years earlier than this, because this is only a 3-year period. Gideon said, we don't have any kings.
Did he name his son?
But he names the son king, high king. It's possible. We could always say it's possible. Maybe I can look back at that. Maybe even though it says he named him, maybe he didn't name him. Maybe his wife did. But
well, it wasn't.
Why are we looking to
his concubine?
Yes,
because that's the other thing. Is even like almost more so. Because if you were to name like one of your descendants as king, it wouldn't be from that line. Am I?
Probably not.
Thinking that? Like that,
Well, not if it's a concubine.
you get what I'm saying? Again, like that's another one of those things. Right from you see where she's from, you see that she's a concubine. He's not even one of his multiple wives. The name given to the son, just all in that one little bit. There's so many red flags.
So who should have been? Who should have been?
That again, the original readers would have all
Okay.
all that would have come flowing into their heads when they first saw that.
Yes. So who should have been the king? Or who should have been the
had a king? But if they were to have a king, it would have been.
Okay. So Gideon is the tribal leader of Ophrah. So that town, he is the tribal head of that town. So maybe he's not a king, he's a duke, okay, or whatever. He's a baron. He's responsible, as for me and my house, this area right here. That's what his dad was responsible for. That's what he is responsible for. When he goes and susses out the Midianites, and he takes his offspring, I suspect that is probably the same guy who is his oldest son who doesn't want to cut somebody's head off.
Abimelech?
No, not
Oh,
Abimelech.
that's okay.
I
was gonna say, I didn't think.
And before this.
Right.
So chapter 7.
It would typically be your firstborn.
Firstborn son is the one who gives the honor to cut off the kings.
Down the leadership role to. It's that firstborn son.
Which is not Abimelech.
Yeah.
So we see his name.
So that's just another layer in that, like all those kind of red flags or memories or whatever that would come to mind in just reading that one little part.
Yeah, we look at it and we're reminded how often we fall short. And in all of this story, a lot of it, like the things that what we could have done, we could be the olive branch or the olive tree that recognized your place is to comfort and soothe and do things according to God. Do this stuff that you're outlined by God for. In a sense, there's a sense that like the Shechemites were supposed to control the river right there to keep their brothers and sisters safe, but they failed to do that. But now they want glory and honor. It's weird. It is weird. It's the same guys that despised Gideon, of course, led to the murder. So these guys, and part of it's their own guilt, probably, I think, and all of that. But if we just do the peace that God would have us do the good works that God set out for you before you were born. If you're an olive tree, be an olive tree for God's glory. If you're a fig tree, be a fig tree for God's glory. If you're, a grapevine, do the grapevine. No, that's, sorry. The dancers thing for our dancers out there, no? Nothing? The grapevine, nothing? Fuse was slow on that one. All right, let's go to the Lord in prayer. Father God, we thank you for your word, which continues to challenge us and reminds us how much we have to every day stay in your word, and how quickly we can fall into the "what have you done for me lately" view, and we can miss just what you're doing around us. Lord, help us not do that and become the briars or brambles that burn down the trees around us. But instead, Lord, help us function on whatever holy role that you have established in our lives. Help us be salt and light to our neighbors. Help us be agents of grace and mercy and truth and love to those around us. Lord, we thank you and we pray in Jesus' name, amen. All right, I'm going to send you with a blessing. Pray the Lord bless you and keep you. Pray he makes his face shine upon you, that he's gracious to you, and that he grants you peace.